Shalom everyone. Today we're going to study Parashat VaYigash from the book of Genesis, chapter 44, verse 18. It looks like we are in the middle of a sentence, and that's the way it is, because we had a huge cliffhanger in the previous parasha, and that was the story of Joseph arriving to greatness, achieving mastery, control, power, unseen before in the family of Abraham. And what do we see? We see this amazing uh, success of Joseph as a leader in Egypt, as the one who runs the economy, the policy of the whole country. So what do we have over here? Joseph is using his status. So when his brothers are coming to Egypt to get food, because there's famine, the ones who don't remember, there's a big famine, and his family from Canaan, they need to come to Egypt to get food because Joseph, with his wisdom, knew how to prepare huge storage of food during the years of plenty so he can feed the world and subjugate it during the years of famine. So then the brothers are coming down. Joseph, just to remind whoever read the parasha last week or read the story or knows the musical, Joseph does not tell them he's their brother. He is an Egyptian king. He pretends like he knows only Egyptian. There's a translator that translates between him and the brothers. The brother speaks Hebrew, and he pretends like an Egyptian that he doesn't speak Hebrew. They can't recognize him, and he plays with them games. And the end of the previous parasha, that he sets them up, he frames Benjamin, the beloved son of Jacob, sets him up as a thief, like he stole his Joseph goblet after all the good that Joseph did with the brothers, them not knowing he's Joseph. So now the deal is like this. Joseph is saying, whoever stole, the thief, will stay with me. You're all free to go because you did nothing, but the thief will stay with me as my slave. And the brothers know exactly what will happen as they come home, and they don't bring Benjamin back. So in that turmoil, in that stress, which means they are facing that most horrible, how would they say, crisis, coming back to Jacob without Benjamin after they sold Joseph. And now the two sons of Rachel are gone. That's how it looks like in the previous parasha. And then Yehuda, he is becoming the speaker of all the brothers, and he approaches Joseph. And that's how we start in this parasha. It says that he approaches Joseph. However, the verb being used is VaYigash, that many commentators are saying this verb is from the Hebrew letters of Nun Gimel Shin, which means colliding, not approaching, colliding. You can use it as approaching, but the usage over here is colliding. And Yehuda is approaching Joseph. He doesn't know it's Joseph. He thinks that the Egyptian ruler that is totally ruthless, that he's playing with them like cat with a mouse that he just hunted, and he's just abusing them. And he talks to him, and the most important thing is that he comes to this, he speaks about emotions, he speaks about feelings, and then towards the end of the chapter, he says, and now that's verse 33 in chapter 45. ועתה ישבנה עבדך תחת הנער, עבד לאדוני, והנער יעל עמך. Let me sit as a slave instead of Benjamin, send the lad back to his father, because I can't live with the idea that Benjamin is staying here. I'm stronger. I can be better. If you want me to be a warrior for you, I'll fight better. If you want me to serve you, I'll serve you better. My worth is much higher than this lad. Please take me inside. Okay, that's how the story goes. And immediately, because I can't see my father facing the bad news, we are coming back home without Benjamin. And that ends chapter 40. Chapter 44. So it's verse 33 in chapter 44. Immediately the next verse, chapter 45, verse 1, ולא יכול יוסף להתאפק לכל הניצבים עליו. Joseph cannot hold back anymore. With all the people around him, he can't take it anymore. He tells all the Egyptians to get out, and then he's starting to cry. The moment the Egyptians get out, verse 2, ויתן את קולו בבכי. וישמעו מצרים ישמע בית פרעה. The whole Egypt and the house of Pharaoh hear the cries of Joseph. And how is it going? Verse 3, ויאמר יוסף אל אחיו, אני יוסף. So Joseph says to his brothers, I am Yosef. How אביך? Is my father still alive? ולא יכלו אחיו לענות אותו, and his brother could not answer because they got startled. Verse 4, ויאמר יוסף אל אחיו, גשו נא אליי. Joseph is telling to his brothers, come to me. Come close. ויאמר אני יוסף אחיכם, I'm Joseph, your brother, אשר מכרתם אותי מצרימה, that you sold me to Egypt. Okay, verse 5, ועתה אל תעצבו, don't be sad, אל יכר בעיניכם, כי מכרתם אותי, don't be upset that you sold me, הנה כי למחיה שלחני אלוהים לפניכם. God sent me over to Egypt before you arrived to Egypt, so we all have a source of livelihood. Verse 6, כי זה שנתיים הרעב בקרב הארץ, the famine is only 2 years, ועוד 5 שנים אשר אין חריף וקציר. 5 more years there won't be plowing and no harvesting. You won't be able to survive. God sent me over to Egypt so we all can be saved. Don't be upset. Everything was okay. Now, there are many layers we can explain what we just read. On one hand, we're talking about one of the greatest sentences of the sages is saying, אפילו חרב חדה מונחת על צווארו של אדם, אל יתייאש מן החכמים. Even though a very sharp sword is put on a person's neck, throat, don't give up on mercies. Don't give up on salvation. Why things can happen? From the brother's point of view, it's like they lost it all. It's like they can't come out of it properly because that ruler, he decided to split them, to destroy them, and he managed to do it. They have nothing they can do against him. So on their point of view, their mind is telling them, we are up to a big time disaster. Either we lose Benjamin, and then we lose our father, because if we come home without him, that will be terrible. But losing Yehuda, one of our brothers, to stay as a slave in Egypt, that's also an option you can't even fathom. It's like, what about they come home and Yehuda is not coming? How would Jacob, the father, take it? Like losing 2 sons, Joseph and now Yehuda. And so whatever they see logically looks impossible, dire, negative, down the hill. It's like all the dreams about the dreams of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Everything looks like there's a big, huge problem. And now, within a moment, the whole thing turns around. Not just that they're not losing Benjamin or Yehuda, they gained Joseph, and they have a secure source of livelihood for the next years. It's like this is an abrupt change of fortune. This is like more than winning the lottery. This is like it's unimaginable a solution outside the box. So of course, as I said many times, when we read the book of Genesis, it's not a book describing the life of Abraham's family. This book is describing the major aspects of a human soul and how they interact with each other. And here we have a very common thing. A human being is facing a collision with destiny, heads-on collision, and logic tells you this is going to be horrible. It's a disaster, large scale, like you never experienced before in your life. And then your brain fooled you. No disaster, hope, good fortune, opening new venues you couldn't even think about of their possibilities. But if we continue with this line of thought, they are coming down to Egypt by the end of the parasha of VaYigash, and they are settling in Goshen, which is a county in Egypt. It has a lot of a lot of place for herds because they were shepherds, and the Egyptians were mostly farmers. But very important thing, they come down at the end of the parasha to Egypt as the brothers, the family of the great Lord of Egypt, Joseph. But remember, they come down to Egypt, they don't come out only with the 10th plague as being slaves, being released in an unimaginary voyage as a nation of slaves coming out to redemption, from slavery to redemption, in a show never seen before, never seen after in the history of humanity. And that show of the Exodus is affecting humanity till today. Okay, so the beginning looks great, even the end of the parasha looks great. But whoever knows the story, they're coming down to Egypt into this, let's say, it's like a trap, a honey trap. They're coming down to Egypt as celebrities, as the family of the ruler, and they become they become later on, after years later, but it becomes the Egyptian exile, the slavery, one of the darkest chapters in the history of humanity, in which millions of people are under horrible conditions of slavery on the edge of genocide. Because Pharaoh's intention was genocide, somehow it didn't come out. Trying to commit a genocide, and they just multiply. That was his intention, but still, that was a very dark chapter in the history of the Israelite nation, at least, if not the rest of the world. And how many times people took the ideas from the Exodus, like let my people go. So many people used that slogan in order to announce or to lead a campaign of freedom. So what is that we are talking about? Which means I explained the shallow aspect. The shallow aspect is you never know if you're coming from a place like Yehuda, that remember, Yehuda is the person that instead of facing his brothers, when they wanted to kill Joseph, instead of facing his brothers and saying, you don't kill people. You don't kill people. You don't kill your brother. You don't kill anyone, especially somebody who's not really carrying a weapon and is not coming to kill you. You don't kill anyone, and especially not your brother. He didn't do that. He more than that. He, in order to save Joseph from the brothers, he was afraid that sooner or later they're going to kill him. He gives the idea to sell him as a slave. Although it says in the Torah, Parashat Mishpatim in Exodus, Gonev ish umecharo mot yumat. Somebody who's stealing a person and sells him into slavery, he's death sentenced. Like, didn't Judah know this law? It says that all the patriarchs, all the fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they knew all the laws of the Torah. There was no Mount Sinai revelation yet, but they knew the laws. They discovered them through their own journey. So now Yehuda and the brothers did not know that law, that you don't kill a human being, especially not your brother. The story of Cain and Abel was not still in the family. Well, what are we talking about? Yehuda is not facing that. He's trying to save Joseph by selling him into slavery. And what do we get over here? Now Yehuda is doing what he did not do then. He is basically sacrificing himself, devoting himself, instead of Binyamin, that is Joseph's brother. And he is facing that horrible dilemma. Like, he's offering himself, but the moment you are a slave, you are like considered dead. You're dead. You have nothing for yourself, whatever you do. A slave is exempt of all the mitzvot. A slave is not a human being anymore because you're not responsible anymore. The moment you are under slavery, you cannot really work as a human being. Okay? You are somebody else's machine. I'm talking about on the spiritual dimension, because you cannot make your own choices. You have to follow instructions of your master that probably does not follow the values, the universal or spiritual values of the Torah. So for Yehuda offering himself to be a slave, what about your dreams, about your future, about who do you want to become? You're basically willing to give your life to save your brother's life. And now you're not trying to wish-wash it. You're not trying to somehow suppress the crisis. You're facing the crisis heads on. And the result is that Joseph cannot hold himself anymore. We spoke about it last week, that when Joseph sees the brothers, his first reaction is to, hey, I'm Joseph, everything is great. Go tell Father Jacob that I'm alive, everything's okay. But it says, Baal HaTurim is saying that the angel, Gabriel, who's the same angel that met him in Shechem, if you read the story, he meets him in Shechem, he meets a person, Joseph, when he's looking for his brothers. And he lost his way. And he meets a person, that's what it says. And he asks the person, where are my brothers? And that person is the angel Gabriel. He says, and the angel Gabriel is saying, your brothers went to the valley of Dotan. Go. Which means, who is sending Joseph to his destiny into Egypt? Angel Gabriel. He could say, if this is the angel Gabriel, he could tell him, you know, your brothers went to Dotan. They want to kill you. Go back home immediately. Don't do that. He doesn't. He tells him to go to Dotan to meet his brothers. And the brothers almost kill him and they sell him into a slave. Now, the same angel appears again and he says to Joseph, don't reveal yourself. They are not there yet. You are there, but they are not there yet. They did not realize yet what have they done. They are not correcting that place, and you cannot do it for them. You can only give them the process with all those stories that he gives them. Know your thieves, your spies, and so on and so forth. So as we just read in the previous parasha, as he blames them that they stole his silver goblet and so on and so forth, they start to say, why is this happening to us? We know Benjamin is not a thief. He doesn't need to be. He has enough gold and silver. Why is this happening to us? Because it's not because he's a villain, which means the ruler of Egypt. So if he's a villain, why are we facing him? Nothing happens for nothing. And they feel, and they say it is because we're right now begging for his mercies, and it is because when Joseph was begging us for mercy before we sold him, we did not listen to him. Okay, now we're paying the price. Only when they went through that process, recognizing, admitting they made a mistake and how wrong they were, only when Yehuda is really doing what he was supposed to do in the beginning, only then Joseph cannot hold himself anymore. Okay? So there's a tikkun, there's a correction, there's a catharsis, as they call it in the, in literature study. There's a purification they go through so they can move on to the next stage in which all that darkness and evil and pain and anguish is behind them. And they are again a happy, united family with a lot of safety and security. This is nice, but is this all? And here comes the Zohar to give us a deeper understanding and different dimension. And the Zohar is teaching us a tremendously important lesson, especially today. I'm reading verse 22 in the Sulam commentary of the Zohar, Parashat VaYigash. Tachazai, come and see. VaYigash elav, and he collided with him. He approached him. Tikuvta de alma be alma. We are talking about two worlds colliding with each other. Litachada da beda, to unite one with each other. Lemevei kol achad, to become all one. Begin the Yehuda hu melech v'Yosef melech. Because Yehuda is a king and Joseph is a king. Et kirivu da beda, they got closer one with each other, v'itachidu da beda, and they united one with each other. What does that mean? Because Yehuda is, in this story, a symbol of the world, we just are being both called kings. Yehuda is not a king. Yes, he's going to be a king. If we're talking about the sons of Jacob, Yehuda received the kingdom, which means later on, the house of David came out from Yehuda. From the house of David will come the King Messiah, which is from the house of David, from the descendants of David himself, which is from the house of Yehuda. So Yehuda is the king, but Joseph is also a king. Joseph is also representing kingship, but there are two different kingdoms we're talking about. And there are two kingdoms that unite with each other. What are we talking about? Verse 23. Rabbi Yehuda ptach v'amar. So Rabbi Yehuda, one of the Tanaim, opens and says, Ki hinei melachim no'adu. It is because when the kings get together, this is from Psalms 48, verse 5. What does it mean? Who are the two kings who get together? Yehuda and Joseph. Begin the Tarvayu Melachim, both are kings. And they got close to each other. On a physical layer, it's Yehuda is coming there to fight, protect Benjamin. And he fights against Joseph, who is kind of the leader, the king, that says, no, I am leaving Benjamin over here to be my slave. However, Yehuda, when he got Jacob to permit them to take Benjamin to Egypt, it was after he told Yehuda told Jacob, if I am not bringing Benjamin back, I'm going to lose my part in the upper world. It's like I'm giving you my guarantee in the upper world and in the lower world that take my word, I'm bringing him back. Because of that, it looks on the superficial level, Yehuda is fighting for Benjamin because he is the guarantor of Benjamin. As I said, he is a guarantor for Benjamin in this world, in the world to come. He had everything to lose. He had to lose this world and the upper world. To argue with him. For the issue of Benjamin. And here comes a very important thing. Why is he fighting, risking his life? Because that's Egypt. He's a Hebrew shepherd from Canaan. In the eyes of the Egyptians, he's no one. They can execute him on the spot, and who would they complain to? The UN? Even today, the UN is worthless. Okay? There was no UN that time, international court. You kidding me? It's like, what are you talking about? So how Yehuda dares to go and collide with Joseph, the king? Because he had something higher, more important. And the Zohar says, he gave his word to his father. And what does it mean? If he is not bringing Benjamin back, he basically vowed to Jacob, I won't have any place, not in the spiritual world and not in the physical world, not in this world and not in the world to come. I'll be cut off. So I'm guaranteeing to you that I'll bring him back because I'm going to lose everything if I'm not bringing Benjamin back. This is basically the drive of Yehuda. And let's see how does that affect us. As he said, I guarantee him. You ask him for me. If I don't bring him over to you, I will sin. I'll be a sinner. In this world, in the world to come. And here we have the whole conflict that a human being must go through in order to earn redemption, the world to come, the calling, fulfillment, achievement, completion, anything you really want deeply, truly. It's all in here. If the Zohar explained, Yehuda is the symbol of the kingdom. Which kingdom? Kingdom of this physical world. Joseph is the symbol over here. Let's read exactly the words of the Zohar. To understand the depth of this, we have many conflicts. Human beings must go through conflicts, must go through illogical conflicts that look unsolvable, that look like very dire. This is what we have to go through. Why? Because we learn something very important. In this world that we live in, it's a world that is doubled. We studied that when we explained what does it mean, Chayei Sarah, the parasha of Chayei Sarah, the lives of Sarah. And we explained that she lived a double life. What does it mean a double life? We all supposed to live a double life. On one hand, we must function properly in a physical life, which means we have, since we're little kids, we're being trained to take care of our physical surroundings, which means we have to be responsible for personal hygiene, for our room to be clean, for our beds to be tidied. And as we grow up, it becomes more and more heavy, those responsibilities for the bare necessities of everyday's life of a human being. Making a living, providing for your family, being a service to our community. Why? Because if we don't do that, you have no life. You have no life. You need to spend a lot of effort, a lot of time, and mostly personal energy in order to lift up your life, which means to be a normal person, which means establishing a family, establishing a career, having a profession, making a living, all of that. It's something you have to go through. And you have to go by the laws. And the laws are, you have to work, you have to provide, you have to take care. There's so many areas to do. You have to be responsible for these bills and these bills. And, you have to pay for that. You have to pay for that. You have to fix that. You have to fix that. You have to, if you don't fix it, you have to invite a plumber, an electrician, all of that stuff, because life needs ongoing maintenance all the time. It's endless energy that has to be invested daily to keep everything functional. Everyone knows that. However, there are crossroads, junctions, in which we are facing collision. And what is this collision? On one hand, my physical senses speak about how do I get by, how do I get successful? And here you have all kinds of opportunities, openings, in which you can achieve a lot of physical gain. However, you have to give up for that your conscience, some values that let's say, you were brought up with, and suddenly there's a moment of collision in which you have to give up a value. Here we're talking about Yehuda. Yes, he gave his word to his father. He now keeping his word means the end of story. He's considered to be dead. Being a slave, that's it. You're somebody else's property. Okay, physically and spiritually, in both layers, in both dimensions. You're not a human being anymore. But because he gave his word, he is right now willing to sacrifice his life so Benjamin can go back home, so he keeps his word. Why are we saying it is a collision? Because this is where everybody knows you have to face those kinds of dilemma once in a while. You have values that you believe in them of honesty and dignity. You gave your promise, you gave your word, you believe in certain ideas, you believe in certain values that are universal. And there comes that moment in which you have to give up your values in order to get some physical gain. And here comes verse 28 in the Zohar. משום שכל העוונות שבעולם אינם נעברים להתכפר עד שזון מתחברים יחד. All the sins of the world, all transgressions in the world, cannot be removed and atoned until the two kingdoms are united as one. When a person has this conflict, which means your physical brain tells you, yes, I gave my word. I must keep, but I need to live. I need to survive. It's all about survival. First and for all, I have to care for my physical life. Becoming a slave is against everything. I'm done. I'm finished. I'm giving up everything. I'm giving up my freedom. I'm giving up everything I've got. So keeping up my word means that's the end of the world for me. So when a person has that dilemma, like basically how Joseph became a Joseph. If he went into bed with the wife of Potiphar, physically, the way the sages explained it, he would have an amazing moment with the wife of Potiphar in bed. You know what? Not one moment, more. They could continue behave this way behind Potiphar's back, that Joseph, he was the most attractive man in the world. Potiphar's wife, she was the most attractive woman in the world. And, physically, there will be a lot of physical gain, but Joseph was willing to give up everything, his life. He knew she will be vengeful if he says no and run away from the room. He knew that she can claim that she was raped and he can be executed because of that. But he didn't care. The same thing with Yehuda, which means what the Zohar is saying, when we come to those moments that we have, the physical logic says you need to survive. By any means. You need to survive. You just give up everything you believe in, but you will survive and you will, once I gave up my values, I gave up what I believe in, I gave up what I was raised on, I gave up my world to come, but I survived. And we said that Joseph and Judah and Yehuda both have the same thing. The world to come, which means in Hebrew, it's not the world to come. The world to come in Hebrew, you say, Ha'olam sheyavo. But in Hebrew, you say the Ha'olam haba, the world that is coming. The upper world, the spiritual world, the other dimension, that dimension that we call outside the box, that dimension that is beyond physicality and the logic of physicality, beyond anything the human brain can ever understand. But that world to come, the world of souls, is everything that we want, everything we wish for. Giving that up is being called for centuries selling your soul to the devil. And history is full of people that sold everything they own to the devil. Just for what? For physical gain. Power, money, sex, you just pride, honor, well, you just name it. Survival. And the moment you sell your soul, it doesn't matter what kind of background you have that pattern around the whole planet. Human beings from different civilizations realized that there will come a moment in which you have to weigh between the two worlds. I can be comfortable in this physical world. I can save my skin, but I'm selling my soul, my conscience, basically my perception about who I am. It's like I had a student years ago. He was a genius, very successful in his field. And he came to the top of the top of the top and finally reached the top of the whole planet in what he was doing in his career. And then in the rush for career, for achievement and so on, achievement, goals, setting goals. And he said that one day he realized that he wakes up every morning. He looks at himself in the mirror and he's saying to himself, "Good morning, liar." Because, yeah, I got to the top of that anyone can reach in my profession. Money, power, fame, pride, you just name it. But I'm a liar. And from that moment, he realized, I sold everything. I don't have a life. I can never have a happy moment. And in that moment, he realized he has a death wish. And he got sick in a incurable disease, and he died in the age of 41 years old. In the prime of his talent and his career and so on, just because he realized that he failed. Yes, he thought that he succeeded. He reached the top, money, fame, everything. But he sold his soul to the devil. And what does that mean? We live in a universe that because of our tikkun as human beings, we have a dual life, double life. We have the life of the soul and the life of the body. And many times they're supposed to conflict with each other. Why? Because only when you have that conflict and you need to offer, to sacrifice your immediate well-being, immediate comfort, immediate logical and physical well-being, just because you are not willing to sacrifice your soul, your perception of life, your perception of reality, your values, your basically eternal values of truth, love, loyalty, honesty, integrity, what I'm here for, what's my calling, what kind of a person do I want to become. This is important because this is the secret of happiness. Because we live in a society, and I spoke about it many times, we live in a society that is super materialistic. The same fight, we just finished celebrating Hanukkah, and Hanukkah was about two civilizations. The Hellenistic civilization that adorned, idealized the body, its needs, and its values, which means what values? How do I get more money, more power by any means possible? If that is going to sell my soul to the devil, yeah, there's no devil. But there is. That's called idol worshiping. When the physical needs are idolized, that being addicted to the momentary pleasure is the idol that you are worshiping daily. There's no worth to human life. There's no worth for spiritual, eternal values of the soul. There's no soul. There's only body that you have to feed him, cherish him, worship him. When you have those intersections of collision, and you choose the spiritual value, while your body is totally saying you're crazy, how come you're doing that? You're sacrificing everything for what? For some intangible value? How could you do that? This is crazy. And basically, our society has become and is becoming in a horrible pace, more and more and more running into that place of basically total idol worshiping society. The value is making more money. The value is getting more physical pleasure. The value is there's nothing outside the box. There's nothing that is called a soul. There's nothing that is called spirituality. It's all fake. And the result is that the body is dying. Never in history so many people were so depressed and in need for antidepressants or all kinds of other ways of escapism from the pain of empty life that is basically without any values that we are talking about in this book, the Torah. Only when you're willing to overcome, sacrifice, put down the body desires, and you're willing to put them down and fight for those values that you really believe in. And that's a daily thing. Should I say the truth? Should I lie? Why should I say the truth? How should I react? How should I treat another human being? How should I treat myself? Only when you collide with that dilemma, and then you unite the two worlds together. What does it mean? I'm not here just for my body. I'm here for a bigger picture. I'm here for the other dimension. I'm here for the world to come. And it's not the world to come. It's a world that is coming every second. I just have to welcome it. How? Overcoming the low passion of the physical world and replacing it with a higher passion of connecting to higher values. So, yes, logically, Yehuda made a terrible thing. He was willing to sacrifice himself. What was the result? He gained everything. He gained life, honor, redemption. Also, more than recognition, it is repentance for what he did with Joseph, that he came with the idea to sell him as a slave. He cleared everything, and that's why it says, Ve'over al pesha. The crime is being removed, is being put behind when we fight for those eternal values of honesty and integrity, unity. That's where we just being. This is the test, the most important test. But remember, in Hebrew, the word for test is the same word as for a miracle. The miracle is fleeing up and above the body consciousness, the body logic. You're giving up everything. No, I'm not giving up everything. I'm gaining everything. Yeah, maybe I'm going to lose money. Maybe I'm going to lose my life, but I'm gaining the connection to the world to come. And that world is more real than all the physical fulfillments possible. Because when the two worlds unite, when I'm saying, no, I'm not a physical being, I am a dual personality, I have dual existence. One is divine and one is physical, and the divine must overpower the physical. Must. There's no other option. Why? Because we had that argument between Esau and Jacob. When Jacob says, you want to be fed by me? You want the bowl of lentils? Sell your birthright. And the Zohar is explaining Esau is a body consciousness and Jacob is a soul. And if sooner or later the body has to realize without the soul is dead. Without the soul, you have nothing. So the only way to remove the sins, to remove the dirt, the mental dirt that we accumulate, when we become sinful and negative and reactive and all of those issues that block our spiritual growth, the only way to remove that is when we see ourselves as uniting the soul and the body, the upper world and the physical world. Only when we realize that the spiritual world has more power by any means, like than anything, any temptation in the physical world, in which you're not even realizing you're sacrificing, because you're not sacrificing your physical life and comfort, you're gaining the upper world. When you create that, it's called uniting the two worlds, which means your mind, your wills, your desires are all connected. If I am alive in a physical body, that had to be subservient, totally devoted to the spiritual life. And if you can't, I don't need it. That is the message of Hanukkah. This is the message of the Torah. This is the message of this parasha. It's because, so what was the result? They became slaves in Egypt. But without that, they wouldn't get Mount Sinai revelation. So it's more than that. When Joseph reveals himself to the brother, he says, don't be upset. Remember, everything that happened, even when you thought you made a mistake, in the big picture, everything came out right. Yes, you have to atone for your hate against me. You did it already. You have to atone for selling a human being as a slave. You did it already. Okay? I couldn't do it for you, but you did it. But the big thing is that there is a God, the God. He basically plans the whole story. And whatever happened came out right. Even if you try as much as possible to turn it wrong, it will come out right. Why? Because there's one who rules the whole show. And the whole show is about one thing, to give us human beings the ability to prove ourselves, to have that collision again and again, another opportunity, to overcome, to devote ourselves, to earn the upper world till it becomes an intrinsic part of my life here on earth. So yes, you're mortal on earth, living in a physical body with physical needs. At the same time, you are a spiritual being that your spiritual needs and values overpower everything else. And when you have that, it's called Ha'arat HaZivug. This is the illumination of the unity, of the union. Meirim Pnei Kol, that brings light to everything. That makes the face shine. V'chol ha'avonot mitkaprim. All the sins are being atoned. Only then. So if we want to understand, why is it that we're going through so many confusing dilemmas, impossible dilemmas? This is the place that we find our light. This is the place that we find our atonement. This is the place we found our atonement between the two worlds. This is the place we find the meaning. So when you say it's a collision, yes, it's a collision, because you have to collide, you have to go against everything that your brain tells you, against everything your society is telling you. And you have to fight for something much bigger, much higher. And humanity without that is lost, is lost. And right now, we see the prophecy is being fulfilled. The days have come that God has sent to the world famine. It's not famine for food. It's not thirst for water, but for the word of God. What does it mean, the word of God? The understanding that we are on one hand flooded with so much of superficial, materialistic stuff that we don't even need. On the other hand, we've never been so depleted, so hungry for spirituality. And spirituality is not just hearing about all kinds of, demons and witchcraft and charms and stuff like this, fantasies. That's not fulfilling me. It's not real. It's a collision, the dilemmas in your everyday life. That's where the unity is waiting for. We have to do it by devotion, by basically having that trust that when we go with the values of the Torah, of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, of those values of eternal truth, that's the only way we can redeem ourselves from the pain, from the misery, from the confusion. That's basically what the story is about. So good luck to all of us, because humanity is right now moving in very fast pace to two directions. One is total physicality, totally fake spirituality or religion, whatever. It's all about emotion, basically idol worshiping, which means worshiping the lowest bodily primitive desires and needs, like hatred, like need for money, like all of that stuff, under all kinds of fake religious labels. On the other hand, people are really starting to get it and are fighting and are willing to basically devote everything they've got for that spiritual dimension in which you unite the physical world with all, which means everything you do, with the spiritual reality, and make everything one with no conflicts at all. And then everything comes into peace. Everything comes into one piece. And then you have peace of mind. And it's much easier to live and to understand that whatever we're going through, which is so confusing, so upsetting so many times, it's just part of the journey of all of us together. Thank you so much. Good luck to all.